Imagine waking up at 65, the applause of retirement echoing faintly, only to feel an unsettling emptiness. You followed the script, played your role, and sacrificed your soul at the altar of security. But where is the self you lost along the way? We are told to find purpose in toil, but what if the system itself was never designed to nourish the psyche? This is not just a question of money, it's a question of meaning. Today we begin the descent from the collective illusion and explore what lies beneath the surface of a life well spent. So, here we are, 65. You've climbed the mountain. You've done what was expected. You gave your hours, your years, your energy, all of it, to a system that promised comfort at the end. And now, you reach the top, only to realize the view is not what you imagined. It's quiet. Too quiet. You feel nothing. Maybe even worse, a strange emptiness. How can that be? You worked hard, you followed the rules, you sacrificed, but now that the noise has stopped and the calendar is blank, a truth rises from within, not like a shout, but like a whisper. I don't know who I am anymore. This, my friend, is not a financial crisis. It is a psychological reckoning. You see, we were never told the whole story. The culture taught us that if we just work, everything else will fall into place, that meaning, joy, and identity will somehow appear after the paycheck ends. But the human psyche doesn't work that way. It doesn't wait quietly in the corner while you chase deadlines. It demands to be heard, and when it's ignored, it doesn't vanish, it retreats. It becomes the shadow, and the shadow waits. You may feel the weight of years behind you, years where you were praised for performance, not purpose, promoted for efficiency, not authenticity. And now, when you finally stop moving, the inner voice, the one you silenced, starts to speak. It asks, was any of this truly mine? The tragedy isn't that people work until 65, it's that they climb a mountain that was never their own, and when they reach the top they discover it was someone else's dream, someone else's life. But listen closely. This moment of emptiness, it's not the end, it's the threshold. The psyche is not punishing you, it's inviting you to descend, to leave behind the false summit, and journey inward into the part of you that was buried beneath years of performance and pretending. What you've lost in time you can recover in truth if you're willing to go deeper. And the question you must now face is this: what did you trade for a sense of safety, and was it worth it? But before you answer, know this: the next step isn't about reclaiming the past. It's about something far more powerful, the discovery of the forgotten self. We'll get there, but first, let's talk about what happens when your soul is silenced by success. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly heard yourself? I'm not talking about the voice that recites your to-do list, or the one that speaks in deadlines, goals, and polite conversations. I'm talking about the deep voice, the one that lives beneath the surface, the one that doesn't care about your resume, your promotions, or how many emails you've answered. For most people, that voice has been silent for decades. Why? Because the world we live in rewards performance, not presence. It teaches us from an early age that value comes from doing, not being, that you must earn your worth. And so, we learn to keep moving. Faster, harder, longer. But something happens when the soul is ignored for too long. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, It withdraws. It becomes the shadow. The shadow is everything you abandoned in order to survive. Your creativity, left behind. Your curiosity, suppressed. Your hunger for meaning, traded for comfort. And each time you silenced it to meet a deadline or meet expectations, it grew quieter. Until now. Now, the career is winding down. The applause has faded. And in that silence, something stirs. A restlessness. A strange feeling that something's missing, even though you did everything right. But this isn't a mistake. It's a signal. A rupture in the surface. The shadow is knocking. You may feel a sense of grief and not know why. You may feel anxiety, even though you're supposed to be relaxed. These are not signs of failure. They are signs of something waking up. A part of you, long buried, is asking to return. And here's the truth. No job title, no salary, no retirement plan can replace the loss of the authentic self. You cannot outsource your inner world. You can only face it. This is why so many people feel lost when they stop working. Because work was never just a job. It became their identity. And when the role ends, the actor doesn't know who they are anymore. But what if the soul didn't disappear? What if it's just waiting? Waiting for you to listen again. Because in the silence after success, a new question arises. Whose life was I really living? And as that question echoes through you, we begin to unravel the next illusion, the one that makes us believe that rest is the reward. But what if the promised freedom is just another myth? Let's talk about the myth of retirement. Let's be honest. We were sold a story. A beautiful one. Work hard, keep your head down, save a little each month, and one day, someday, you'll reach the promised land. Retirement. The golden years. The final chapter where, at last, you'll be free. But here's the problem. It's a myth. Not because people don't retire, many do, but because the idea of retirement has been twisted into a fantasy. We're told it's the reward for a lifetime of labor. But if that's true, why do so many people arrive at retirement feeling anxious, depressed, directionless? Because freedom, real freedom, doesn't arrive on a calendar. It's not something that's handed to you after 40 years of trading your time. It's something you must build within yourself. And if that inner work was never done, no amount of free time will save you. Here's what the system won't tell you. Retirement doesn't automatically unlock meaning. In fact, for many, it exposes the lack of it. The job gave structure, deadlines, identity. Without it, the scaffolding collapses and suddenly the person is face to face with themselves. And if you've spent your whole life running from that meeting, it can feel like standing at the edge of a cliff. This is why so many people just months into retirement feel restless, empty, even afraid. They realize they were never chasing freedom. They were delaying confrontation with the self. You see, the psyche doesn't care if you've earned your pension. It wants to know if you've lived your truth, if you've explored your depths, if you've honored your gifts. And if the answer is no, retirement isn't a reward, it's a reckoning. But that's not bad news, because now, without the distractions, you finally have the space to ask the real questions. Who am I beneath the roles? What did I abandon to be accepted? What dreams did I silence just to survive? This is the real beginning, not of retirement, but of rebirth. But beware, as you begin to search for what's real, you'll come face to face with something most people spend their whole lives avoiding: a mirror. And in that mirror, you might see a stranger. Next, we'll meet them together and begin the journey to reclaim the forgotten self. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like you were looking at a stranger? You recognize the face, yes, the features, the aging lines, the tired eyes. But something deeper feels unfamiliar. Like the person staring back at you once had dreams, once had fire, once had something that felt real, but now? Now it's all buried under layers of responsibility, repetition, and routine. That's not your imagination. That's the forgotten self, the part of you that was alive long before the job titles, the meetings, the carefully curated identity, the part that asked big questions when you were young, the one that played, created, explored, before the world told you to be practical. And so, you adapted, you performed, you became what they needed you to be. But here's the thing, the psyche keeps score. Every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you followed the script instead of your truth, every time you hid your fire to fit in, the forgotten self was pushed further underground. And now here you are. The work is mostly done, the noise has quieted, and what rises up from the silence? Not peace, but a deep, aching sense that something's missing. It's not your imagination. Something is missing. You. Not the version the world applauded. Not the persona you wore like armor, but the you that was never meant to be forgotten. The you that still dreams, still wonders, still wants. And if you don't turn toward that part now, when will you? This is not about regret. This is about remembering, reclaiming. Because here's the truth. The forgotten self isn't gone. It's waiting, patiently. It has survived, and now it's knocking. Not to haunt you, but to invite you back. But know this, returning to the self isn't comfortable. It means peeling away layers. It means facing choices, and sometimes grief. But beyond that grief is something so few ever find: authenticity. And once you remember who you are, not who you were told to be, something shifts. But here's the twist. Even if you reclaim yourself, the world won't always make room for that truth. So ask yourself, are you ready to face the golden cage that you once mistook for freedom? Some cages don't look like cages at all. They shine, they're polished, lined with comfort, padded with predictability. From the outside, they look like success, like stability, like everything you were told to want. But the moment you stop and listen, really listen, you'll hear it. The faint rattle, the sound of something inside you that's been pacing back and forth for years. You see, the most dangerous prisons are the ones we build ourselves, and we build them with good intentions. A steady job, a reliable paycheck, a home, a title, all part of the dream. And let's be honest, these things are valuable, but they become dangerous when we start believing they're the only thing that matter. Because that's when we begin trading meaning for safety. The deal sounds reasonable at first. Sacrifice your time, your energy, your passions in exchange for security. But what most people don't realize is that trade is not temporary. It's habit forming. Soon you don't just work the job works you. You don't just wear the mask wears you. And year after year, you decorate the cage. You make it more comfortable. You upgrade it. But comfort isn't the same as freedom, and deep down, you know that. Because every now and then, at 3 a.m., or during a long commute, or when you see a child laughing freely, something stirs. You feel it. That ache. That voice that whispers, "This isn't who I really am." But then, morning comes, and you return to the routine. The cage is too comfortable now, too familiar. You tell yourself, it's too late to change, too late to risk. But let me ask you, what's the cost of staying? Because if you wait long enough, the cage doesn't just trap your time, it traps your soul. And the saddest part? You start calling it freedom. This is the golden cage, the illusion that because you're safe, you're fulfilled. But safety without meaning is just survival, and you were meant for more than that. Now comes the hard part. You've built your life around what looks good on the outside, but what happens when it all fades? What happens when the world stops clapping and all you hear is your own heartbeat? The answer lies in the one thing we all chase, but rarely define. Let's talk about the true cost of success and what's left when it turns to dust. Let's be clear. Success isn't the problem. It's what we sacrifice for it that we rarely question. You've earned the titles, you collected the paychecks, the bonuses, the praise. You hit your goals. On paper, it all adds up. But something inside you, something quiet, something old, is whispering, where did all the time go? And deeper still, was it worth it? Because here's the truth. When all you chase is the next outcome, you begin to live like a machine, efficient, productive, always moving, but never quite present. And somewhere in the rush, the early meetings, the late nights, the constant proving, something begins to erode. Not all at once, not loudly, but slowly, silently. Your intuition dulls. Your curiosity fades. Your laughter becomes polite instead of joyful. You forget what it's like to wake up excited, without a task list dictating your worth. This is the hidden cost, the soul tax of a life lived only on the outside. Because success can be a very loud distraction, a shiny armor. But when the applause dies down, when the work slows and the achievements start to gather dust, what remains? Often, just a hollow shell, not because you failed, but because you forgot to bring yourself with you. You see, the world loves your output, but your inner world, your imagination, your deepest longing, that was never meant to be outsourced. And now, without the daily rush, you're beginning to feel it, the quiet reckoning, the unspoken truth that something precious was left behind in the pursuit of more. But here's the good news. What was forgotten can be remembered. What was lost can be reclaimed. But it won't come from chasing another goal. It won't come from doubling down. It comes from stopping, turning inward, asking the question most people run from. Who am I without all this? And if that question feels terrifying, that's good. That means you're getting close. Because next, you're going to face the mirror at the top of the mountain, and you might not recognize the person looking back. Let's talk about what happens when the clock strikes 65, and the illusion of identity begins to fall apart. There comes a moment when the noise fades. The routine ends. The deadlines stop calling your name, and you're left with something unfamiliar. Stillness. At first it feels like freedom, no more alarms, no more meetings, just space. But then, something strange creeps in. A discomfort, a question that rises like mist after a long, hard rain. Who am I now? You've spent decades building an identity. You were the manager, the provider, the leader, the expert. People respected you, needed you. You knew your place in the system. But now, that system no longer needs you. And here you are, staring into the mirror. But the reflection, it doesn't look like the person you thought you'd be. Not fully, not clearly. You see the lines on your face, but not the stories behind them. You feel the weight in your chest, but not the language to explain it. Because for years you were busy being someone, and now that the role is over, you're not sure what's left. This is the part no one warns you about. They tell you to plan for retirement, but they never say to prepare for the identity collapse. The mask is gone, the applause is gone, the structure is gone, and all that remains is you. But here's the problem. If you've spent your life being what the world expected, then the you that remains may feel like a stranger. You start to realize how much of your personality was shaped by obligation, not authenticity, and that can feel frightening. Like standing in a house you built, only to realize you never chose the furniture. But listen closely. This is not the end of your story. It's the first real page. Because only now, in this raw, exposed place, can the genuine self begin to rise. The one you buried under responsibility, the one who never forgot. And yet, even when you rediscover who you are, there's one final question you must confront. Why did I trade so much of myself for so little return? Let's look at the silent deal so many of us make. The deal that looks wise on the outside, but inside is a quiet tragedy. Let's talk about trading time for security, a bargain with the unconscious. Let's ask the question no one dares to speak out loud. What did you really trade for security? Not the surface-level answer, not the polite version. I mean, deep down, beneath the logic, beneath the justifications. What part of you was sacrificed? Was it your art? Your spontaneity? Your sense of wonder? Because, make no mistake, the trade was made. And it was subtle. It didn't happen in one dramatic moment, no. It happened slowly, over years. You traded time for a paycheck. You traded dreams for stability. You traded risk for routine. And at first, it made sense. You had responsibilities. People were counting on you. You made the practical choice. But here's the danger. When that trade becomes unconscious, it becomes a pattern, a loop, a silent agreement between your soul and your survival instinct. You stop asking, is this right for me? And you start asking, will this keep me safe? But here's the cost, and it's steep. You can never feel truly alive while playing only to avoid loss. The unconscious mind doesn't forget the parts you abandon. It remembers. It stores them away like hidden artifacts, pieces of you that were once vibrant, now locked in the basement of your being. You told yourself you'd come back for them, someday. But someday became never, and now you're left holding the outcome, the savings, the title, the respectable life. But when you look at the full equation, something doesn't add up, because what you gained in security, you lost in self. This is the quiet tragedy of modern life. We were taught to survive, but never shown how to live. We were trained to be useful, but not to be whole. But what if it's not too late? What if the part of you that made the trade is now the part that can rewrite the contract? Because here's what no one tells you. The unconscious bargain only has power as long as it remains unseen. But now you see it, and once something becomes conscious, you have a choice. So the real question is, now that the role is over, now that the story has cracked open, what kind of life do you choose to live when the script is finally yours to write? And that is where the true journey begins.